Before we start, I want to do a quick survey. I know it's early, but I really, really require you to raise your arms when I ask a question. And be honest, okay? Just to have an idea of the crowd we have in here. So, raise your hand if you use free and open source software. Actually, you do, sir, as well. You have a bunch of them in your cell phone. Okay, almost everyone. The people that did not raise their hands probably are sleeping right now. That's normal, I understand. Now, the most important question of the day. Raise your hand if you contribute back to your software. It's a smaller percentage, right? Okay, now I know my crowd. Let's start. I was introduced, but let's put some other things. Who know who this guy is? Not the one with the same shirt as I do, because I wanted to prove that was me. The other one. Who know that guy is? Oh my God. No nerds in the crowd? First thing is, I've been doing IT for quite a long time. 30 years. I used to work for Microsoft. I was there when they launched Internet Explorer 4, right? There are people in here that have no idea what Internet Explorer means, even less what the 4 meant to everybody else in the universe. So that's how long I've been doing this. I work with PHP, Ruby, Java, Ruby on Rails, and many other things. I've been working with Python for more than 20 years. I'm Python Software Foundation Fellow, especially because of the work I did in Brazil for the community. And honestly, what you're doing here is awesome. I'm really proud to see other Latin American countries doing a great work and creating a community around Python, because that's how we started, and that's how every single major developer from our country now lives outside Brazil. And now we have a new generation, and that keeps going. But besides that, I'm a nerd, okay? I like retro computing, I like Star Trek, I like soccer, I like basketball, and that's MacGyver, the original one. Every year, my company has a company retreat that happens at the same time of a major sci-fi conference in Bonn, in Germany, and that's by design. So we have some spring days, and then we go to take pictures with like B-level stars from Hollywood. But besides that, I've been working with Plone for 21 years. But what is Plone, right? Plone is a CMS. Plone is a solution you use to create a blog, a website, an intranet, e-government site. I bet every single one of you heard about WordPress, and now we have Wix and many other things. Wix is not really a CMS, it's like a page builder. It's more like a front page or a Dreamweaver or something. But in here, we have Plone. Plone is a CMS. It's used to create great websites and things that are going to stand the test of time. It's used all over the world. I showed in here, there was the site for Osaka University. There was the DLR, the Deutsche Luftraum Agency. It's a solution that's built to create sites that are going to be maintained by people that do not know how to write Markdown. Because every time I talk to Python people, they're like, yeah, but I can have my blog with Markdown and GitHub pages. Yeah, we know. We understand. Then you give that to your son or to your mom, and it's gone. And we all know the hard part is to write the content, not to have the infrastructure there. Plone excels in having a great user experience. In here, I'm going to show you a quick demo. This is like the demo of Plone. You can basically go to a site, and in here I install locally. I'm going to show how you add content, play a bit, show like, oh, you can edit the front page, you can edit all the metadata, because again, it's important for you in a few years to have the metadata there. Change the footer, change colors, and so on. Change the logo. And then I want to upload some images because, okay, every site needs to have some images. I'm going to select some images from my computer. I'm going to upload them. Oh, they're here. And now I'm going to go back to the front page, and what can I do with those images? First thing is, I'm going to add one of them. Like you're going to see, and I hope no one sues me for that, but I'm going to get this image from PyCon Colombia. I'm going to change the order of the parts of the page in there to move it up a bit. Go on fast, sir. Here, and then what happens? Oh, look, I have an image there. It's a solution for you to build websites, but also to be able to maintain that in the long run. One of the problems, and I'm going to say that straight ahead, why Plone is not well known as WordPress? Because WordPress has a company behind, and they're really good. And if you want to add anything to WordPress, you need to pay somebody. And with Plone, usually, you create a project, you deliver to your client, and then they have the same website for 13 years. Because, oh, it's there, it works, it's happy. That's great for them. It's terrible for companies that sell problems. Actually, they invent problems to sell solutions. And you have different types of information. Every type of information is going to have their own fields. If you're thinking about Django, who here worked with Django? Different models and so on and so forth. You know that's important in the long run. So in here, I have some examples of what you can do with Plone. If you want to take a look, go to this site. There are many ways. We recommend you running Docker and so on and so forth. So it's quite easy to work with it. And more important, I'll be here, right? If you want me to do a demo, I can do a demo. If you want me, oh, I have this hypothetical problem, can we solve with Plone? I can give you the honest answer. Because Plone is open source, even though my income comes from Plone, I'm not being paid to come here and just say, oh, Plone is awesome and so on, and I'm going to get 10% of whatever you guys buy. So don't worry. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say, yeah, for this case, go for Fast API and you're going to be happy. But I'm not here to talk about Plone. I'm not here to talk about the lines of code. I was tempted to start talking about how you add typing to a project that has a code base more than 30 years old. There are parts of Plone that were written by this guy, Guido van Rossum. I believe you heard of, in the mid-90s. There was a moment of like 15 years ago, we were trying to optimize something to run with PyPy, like the Python in Python, and the guy started blaming like this code is crap, and it was Guido's. Of course, in 95 he wrote that, it works, and nobody touched that. But the important thing in here is to talk about the history of the project and how a project like that survives. First thing is, Plone is a real free and open source software story. It was created back in 1999. It started in 1999 by an American guy, a Norwegian guy over IRC. They had two things in common. They hated the user interface of another system, and they liked one electronic band from England. The name of the band is Plone. See? Now we are more famous than the band. After you hear their music, you understand why. But they liked that at the time, so that's it. But the point is, back then, they started like, oh, we are not happy with this solution, and how most open source projects start and work. You do not like something, you try to improve it, you contribute back, or at some point you say, okay, this is not really the scope of this product, you create something on top, and so on. But the important part in here is, back in 2001, October 4th, the first version of Plone was released. And it was considered by the Python elders at the time the coolest thing for web development, Because at the time, if you were developing anything for web, it would be mostly PHP-based, if you were a normal human being. If you had millions of dollars, you're going to buy a CMS from a company called Vignette. But everybody else was kind of looking for solutions, and Python now has this amazing solution. It allowed you to create stuff through the web without having to write code. That was mind-blowing at the time. We had two benevolent dictators for life. Imagine, Python has one. We had two at the time. The American is the guy from this side, and the Norwegian is the taller guy. We had annual conferences. We had lots of momentum, and we had no company behind. There was no autonomic, I always forget the name of the other companies, but there was no company basically building this product. It was a really true open source product. And people were happy. But at some point, oh, let's create something here. 2004, we created a foundation to own the code base, to own the trademarks, and to protect the most important part of this endeavor, that was the community. And all of that years before Django even existed. Nowadays, we say, oh, Python for web is Django and it's Fast API. Back then, nothing. There was something called Zope. We do not talk about our parents in here. Plone was built on top of Zope. But the important thing in here for you to understand is, it's a project, early 2000s, lots of momentum, no company behind, truly open source, and it's growing, right? And then Django appeared. And Django is really cool, right? Django makes things easy to build and so on. Plone was amazing when it comes to a CMS, and you could build other stuff. You could build a scheduling system with Plone, but it was an overkill. It's basically trying to build mobile apps with PHP. That's strange, right? People tried that in the early 2000s. But what happened was, Django is here, Django is cool. We have other Python frameworks, web frameworks appearing. We had at the time TurboGears, we had Web2Py, we had Pylons, and we had Pyramid, all of them fighting for the same, oh, we are going to be the best Python web framework. So the community decided to, okay, let's focus on being a CMS. Let's not try to embrace everything. Let them fight, and we are going to be a solution, something you download, you install, and you manage your site. It's picking your battles. We were correct as a community because we are still here. TurboGears is not. Most of the other frameworks are not. And even though CMS today is a commodity to the point that people, oh, I need to create a website, they go 2 weeks and do that for free, or many other solutions, and now there are many AI-powered solutions. But in the end, we are still here. We are relevant. We have our niche, and we have a strong community. The product is still relevant even 20 years later. But something happened, right? We had a community of really smart people, really, really smart people. And then we had something that in our community is called the Mozilla effect. Oh, these guys are so good. Mozilla had lots of money. What they did, they start hiring every single technical leadership we had in the community. They went for the BDFL. Oh, you're going to redesign the whole Firefox. I do not remember the number. I believe it was 4 or 5. You're going to redesign everything here. And they went for our core developers, Tarek Ziad, that later on became an expert on packaging in Python. Oh, you're going to come here and develop web service solution. They got every single technical leader. And then we're kind of, fuck Mozilla, right? And then came Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and everybody, Canonical. And the whole leadership of the product was gone. They were not gone in a day. It was not like, oh, You are not allowed. But after a while, you stop being involved. And this whole generation was gone. So the whole leadership we had, every single person we looked like, oh, they know what they're doing, was not there anymore. And even our BDFLs, they became absent parents. They were not there anymore. Alexander Lime started going to, from Mozilla, then to Google, or Google to Mozilla, and then to a startup, and so on. Alan Runyon kept his company in Texas happy, and that's it. You have an open source project that lost their senior leadership. What do you do? But actually, changes are expected. There was back then, there was this survey from Debian telling that, oh, it's not there, it's there again. It's showing Santa Claus, and Santa Claus is a private person, and it goes away. There was a study from Debian showing that the average time someone stays in an open source community is 7 years. Of course, now it should be a bit longer, because some of us are staying longer, but 7 years, because what happened? People get new jobs, people get married, people have kids, and that's my small kid. They get divorces, divorce number 1, divorce number 2, they change cities, and so on and so forth. Life will happen, right? Some of them will move to crypto. You have no idea how many good developers from Plone are now crypto experts. I'm not talking about people that, oh, I know. I'm talking about people that got a shitload of money early on, and they still talk about crypto. And some of them will talk about something called Nix. Who in here heard about Nix? One, okay, 3 people. So if there's anyone else from Nix in here, probably by the end of the conference, everyone will hear about Nix, because that's kind of a cult. And I'm part of it because I love Nix. So I can sell the Kool-Aid in here. And also, we had even someone that started writing murder mystery novels in Germany and became a bestseller. Lovely, right? And we have some DJs as well, because I keep being flooded about their music. That's it. Every project will face this kind of stuff. If you're not facing this kind of stuff, either your project is like Python and people pay you to stay working with that, or your project is way too small or not pulling attention, because that's normal. People will try to get the best developers and best people they have. But you see, which year is this? 2024, we are still here, we are still strong. It's still no big company putting money on our marketing and so on. What happened? Community. That's the word, that's what makes the difference. We had our original generation, like they went to Mozilla, they went to Canonical, they went to Google. Then a next generation came here. By the way, last year we had Chris Ewing here, right? Who was here last year? Chris Ewing, Plone, alumni, genius, great guy. We shared, I believe his son or daughter was born around the same time my son was born. And over beers in the Netherlands once, we were basically saying, I hate Disney music because you hear Disney, like a Disney Club or something, or Mickey Mouse House, and those songs keep playing in your head for weeks. But people will move on. And then we have a new generation that comes from lower decks. And after this one, it's going to be a next one, and a next one, and a next one. Our community has this difference. Since the first days, we were always welcoming to newcomers. We embrace newcomers. We are happy to have you there. So that's the important thing. We know change is going to happen. We know parts of the community are going to move away. We are happy for you. Next one in the line, please. But there's one important thing. You never plan a transition. You embrace it. You support it. But you do not plan. It's not like, I keep joking, it's like a pope. You do not keep planning, oh, this guy is going to be the next pope, because the first one needs to go first, right? So you are ready when the time comes. And that happens with us. This guy in here, Dornelis Tremea, was the technical leadership of Plone community in Brazil. He was the conduit for every single Brazilian that was afraid of speaking in English to the global community. And he was everywhere. He was doing pro bono work. He was running conferences. He was pushing people to go to events and give talks and so on and so forth. But then he died in 2011 in a crash accident, way too soon. And all of a sudden, the community lost its point of contact. What do we do? He was kind of pushing me to be more active outside Brazil. I would go and give talks about Plone in Portuguese anywhere in Brazil. It's a big country, fine. But oh, I'm never going to do that in English because I do not feel confident and so on and so forth. And he was the person pushing me. When he was not there, someone had to step in, and I was the natural option. And I decided, okay, I'm going to do that until somebody else appears. And I was forced out of my comfort zone and became the voice of the Brazilian community and became part of the global community, and I do not regret a single day of this moment of being there and understanding that the global community is just like your friends speaking bad English. Everyone speaks bad English. And one thing we say in the Brazilian Python community, that's a saying there, it's the motto of our conference. People are more important than technology, right? Within Plone, we know that for a fact, because since the early days, we kind of realized that it's not Plone, the code base, mostly in Python, a bit of C, that has a community around it. Actually, it's a community that has a software project to call their own. And actually, we released many other things. We created new web frameworks within the community. We have, I believe, 2 more web frameworks, one in Node.js and one in Python. And we maintain all of them. Why? Because we support community members that want to test something new, and if it gets adopted, we are there. The important point is people are the most important part of your community, by far, by really a long distance. Without people, you do not have an open source project. You could have something else like, oh, I have my pet project in here. I'm the only maintainer, only user. It's open source. Yeah, okay. But if you do not commit, nobody else does. Not a real project. But also, the Plone community, there are many other sayings, but the most famous one is this one. Plone is a drinking community with a software problem. We are actually a bunch of friends, and when I say, oh, we are a bunch of friends, if you join the community, if you go once, you're going to be part of the community, you're going to be a friend. And that's kind of a joke because not everybody drinks. But that was the moment we were announcing Plone Conference 2020. You see, 2020 was a great year for a conference, right? But we were announcing one, and they were trying to sell the idea of, oh, you should come to the conference in Namur, Belgium. And the selling point was, we have many really good beers in Belgium, and we already have a venue with a good beer selection. The crowd was like, yeah, happy, and then COVID. Took us 2 more years to go to Belgium. But the whole point in here is it's a community that we discuss software, but in the end, we support each other, we like to be around each other, and so on. But now I'm going to go back one step, because I asked about the open source contributions, but let me define contribution. Contribution is not only about writing code. What else could be considered an open source contribution? Go on. What? Thank you all. Documentation. That's really important. What else? What? Writing blog posts. What else? Oh my God, that's perfect. Issues and bugs. What else? Tutorials. What else? Buying a Jungle Girls t-shirt. Buying swag. Supporting with the donation. For years, there's this Colombian guy, Sebastian. Do you know him? Yeah. For years, I donated $5 per month for him. Does he need my $5? Probably not, but I'm thankful for the tools he writes. And I have $5 to spare. I'm donating money. If you do not have the time, but you can buy a t-shirt. If you're here, come on, you're here. You're part now of the Python Colombia community. Oh, but I've been there once. Perfect. You're going 1 year, not going the other one, and you're going to appear. If you go on a social network, social media, and praise the project or politely ask a question, you're part of the community. If you're an asshole and go there to complain, you're not. Really? That's just a bad human being. But honestly, if you did any of those at some point, you are part of the open source community. You help the project grow. Because let's be honest, if no one knows about a project, it doesn't exist. But if people are talking, if you go on GitHub and give a star, whatever, it's already, you're part of the community. So now, raise your hand if you did any of those things for open source. Come on, you're here, raise your hand. See, that's the most important part. You're already part of the community. Most people, they think that to be part of the community, I need to write code, I need to be relevant, I need to go on stage. Not everyone wants to go on stage. Not everyone feels comfortable to writing code, but there are people that are amazing of reproducing a bug, getting a report and trying more, or documenting, writing a blog, do whatever you can do. In the end, that goes a long way. Having a community goes a long way to maintain any open source project, but it needs to be a healthy community, right? Healthy communities do not happen by chance, and they do not happen by mandate. I know for a fact many companies, they open source their products and they try to control their community. And at a certain point, what happens? There's arguments inside the community, and someone in marketing basically say, that's bad, let's try to fix that, and it goes in a wrong direction. The problem with communities, it's always that it's hard also to control them. And by the way, healthy community does not mean that everyone is polite. That's a slide from an actual talk during a conference in Arnhem, because one of the release manager at the time was really tired of people basically complaining about things. Because that happens, like, oh, this does not work, and he basically said, F you and do something, please, whatever, write a decent report and so on, or come with a suggestion. And that was kind of a turning point for us. Because people realize that you do not need to actually come with the final solution, but just complaining, just yelling, oh, there's a bug in here. If you have the means to fix it, or you have the means to help or time, please do something. But every healthy community needs you. It needs each one of you. We know that contributing to open source is kind of a privilege because there are people in here that have to commute to their work. It's like a 1 hour commute each way, and they have kids, and they have to study at night, and so on and so forth. And oh, how can I find the time to contribute? Any contribution matters. If you're using a software, you find a bug in it, and let's be honest, everyone found a bug in something. 1 minute, go and report that somewhere. It does not need to be the most perfect report, but report, because if no one knows, that's not a bug. Also, communities are not made only by rock stars. And here I put 3 people from the Brazilian community. The person in the middle is called Luciano Ramalho. He wrote that Fluent Python book. Right, it's a bestseller and so on, and he's like the grandparent of the Brazilian Python community. And he's the person that, if there's a vacuum and there's a moment of silence, he grabs the microphone and changes that. He can talk about technical stuff, he can talk about community and so on. He likes the spotlight. Here, there's Rafaela. That's, for me, the most important person in the Brazilian Python community because she never gets any recognition because she's low profile, she's shy. But she's a person that organized 3 Brazilian Python conferences already. She was part of the foundation of the Brazilian Association. She writes code, documented. She was one of the first people to translate the Python documentation to Portuguese back in 1999. But she's like, yeah, no, I don't want to go on stage. She does not like that. But she's important, and honestly, without that, Luciano would never have written his book. Because Python would not be as big in Brazil. He would not be as important as he was in Brazil, got the offer to write the book, and so on and so forth. And that's Ana. Ana is the newest generation in Brazil. I was living in Germany for 6 years. When I came back, none of my usual friends in the Brazilian Python community was there. And the community was run by women from every part of Brazil with a progressive mindset. We had every type of affirmative action to bring new people to the conferences. The conferences that were 300 people when I left, they were 1,000 just before COVID. And actually, this conference that had 1,000 people happened in a small city outside the big centers. And anyone trying to go there had at least 4-hour drive, the best case scenario. And they had 1,000 people there, people flying from all over Brazil. And she's one of the driving forces. What is important here? You have different profiles, you have different generations. Each one of you can help. In Plone, we need this kind of diversity, right? That can be summarized in here because we have 3 young people, Chinese, Egyptian, and Indian. They were part of Google Summer of Code for the Plone project last year. One of the things the Plone Foundation does since the first Google Summer of Code, and by the way, who knows what Google Summer of Code is? Okay, if you don't know, Google Summer of Code is a program that Google opens for students. It's closed already, everyone was selected, but every year, if you're studying, you can apply to help an open source project, and they pay you to do that. The Plone Foundation has an additional layer. If you succeed in your project, we pay you to come to the conference. Oh, but the conference is in Tokyo. Good for you, you're going to visit Japan. These 3 nice people here, they came to Brazil last year. The conference was in Brazil. And Mohamed in the middle, He never flew on an airplane, and all of a sudden he had to figure out how to board a plane, how to get a visa, how to go to Brazil. He, of course, missed his first flight because he forgot the document he needed to present to leave Egypt. And he was really scared, and he arrived and he was like, oh my God, this is awesome, this community is awesome. Because the community looks at new people, embrace them, always. But when we talk about diversity in here, I'm not talking only about gender and race. That's the first thing you think about. But diversity also needs to be tackled in many other vectors. One of them is neurodiversity in here. Anyone in here is neurodiverse, a neurodiverse person. Anyone here is autistic or ADHD. Come on, it's statistically improbable that I need to do that in Spanish later. But this is one thing that's important for you to understand. This is a safe space, and usually conferences like this are safe space. I am neurodivergent. I am diagnosed since 2002. I never talked about that until 2023, when I saw a bunch of other neurodivergents basically complaining about how hard it was for them, and I was like, oh, if I have shared that back in 2002, many of my friends would understand what was going on with them. So this is a safe space, and in the Brazilian Python community, we kind of help this. So you need to think about this. You need to think about the stereotypes we have in the world, right? I'm happy that our colleague is not Dutch. He lives in the Netherlands, but he's not Dutch. There's one stereotype in the Plone community that if your code review is being reviewed by a Dutch person, it's going to be direct. He's not going to say, oh, this is crap, but it's going to be close. And it's not because he's offending you. It's because he's direct, right? Brazilians writing the bug reports, we are really verbose in Portuguese. In English, we are not, because we are not confident in writing in English. So the bug reports usually are meaningless. So we need to, let's try. You need to understand difference in cultures. You need to understand that if you are in a call with people from all over the world, and there's someone from Japan, and you're saying, oh, I think we should do that, and they're doing this, it does not mean they are agreeing with you. It means they are processing the information. And usually they do not say yes or no, and I'm saying that about the PyCon Japan organizer, Manabu. Lovely person. You talk to him, he's doing that, and then 2 days later he writes an email, like long email, explaining his point, and you're like, what happened? I thought you were agreeing with me. Differences in culture, you need to address that, you need to understand. But also, the fact that open source communities, they work in English, right? But they work in every single type of size and flavor and dialect of English that's possible. There are going to be people that are really proficient, and they were born in England, and they speak only English, and they cannot communicate with the rest of the world because they are from Bath, like same city of the Tears for Fears, and their accent is so posh and so hard that nobody else gets it. That happens. If they are allowed to be misunderstood, a poor Brazilian guy can also make mistakes and so on. And also, one last thing when we talk about diversity is called time zones, right? Colombia is around the same time zone of US, so life is great, right? Try to work with people from India, or try to work with people from the Eastern Europe. The company I work right now, we have people from India to Seattle. We have one slot where everyone is awake. It's around my lunchtime. If there's daylight saving times, it changes a bit, but it's my lunchtime. So every day at noon, Here I am talking at the wrap-up for Europe and the Indian guys, and for the stand-up for Mexican, Brazilian, and American guys. No decision can be made by a single part of this group, because that kind of kills the whole purpose. But more important here is any community needs human interaction, right? If you do not have the human interaction, if you do not meet people, communities die. Because I understand most of us live our daily lives online, but nothing compares to meeting someone, going for a beer or a coffee or a tea or having a meal and sharing jokes or watching a soccer game, or in something we did as a community, going to karaoke in Tokyo. This kind of stuff kind of creates a bond that allows you to survive the test of time. But remember, nowadays visa is hard, right? What do? For instance, one thing the Plone community is strongly considering is we are not going to organize any conference in the US for the time being, because it's impossible to get visas to the US. Last 2 years ago, we had problems for bringing an Indian person to Europe, because it's insanely hard to get the visa to certain countries and so on. So you need to think globally, but you should act locally. Make many meetings, sprints, or conferences in different parts of the world so people can feel. And then you fly someone from your place there. And of course, you need clear rules. 15 years ago, we created a code of conduct to basically punish one person, because we had one bad actor in the community. It's a lovely person, we love them, but he's gentle, polite, and is part of a minority group in person, but online, he's a troll, and borderline racist. And he goes to PyCon. So people that went to PyCon, you met him. But those rules solved our problem, but new problems arise. Now we have the problem of AI, right? And someone in here is going to talk about this. How do you handle this new AI world? A final message is, tools, technologies will fade, will disappear. You need to adapt. Your project needs to adapt. We started using CVS. We moved to Subversion. We had a discussion about either Mercurial or Git, either Bitbucket or GitHub. I voted for the wrong ones, but democracy, we won. And we are here. I work with many different things. I was out of the community for 6 years, but I was never really far away, because I would go to conferences, I would enjoy time with my friends. Actually, some of them, I hired them. Some of them made me job offers. And here I want to praise this guy on my left. It's Eric Steele. He works for Salesforce. He's well paid at Salesforce. But he's grateful to the Plone community. He misses us, so every conference he goes to the whatever place it is. He gets his money from Salesforce and donates entirely to the Plone Foundation. And Salesforce doubles the money. And every time he needs someone, he looks at his former peers. Truth is, technology will go away, and probably you look around, your next colleague or your really good friend, best friend in the future could be here. You could be meeting someone today you never met before that's going to make a huge difference in your life. Community is what makes open source projects survive or destroy them. Community is what makes most of us have a different career. Of course, if you go into LinkedIn, but it's like Disney, everyone is happy, they say the word networking. But let's use community, and that's the point. I would like to thank you and leave these nice penguins here, because we love penguins, and I did not put you with the penguins there. But this is another thing that open source community provides to you. Someone has a crazy idea like, let's organize a sprint at the end of the world. In 2012, when the Mayan calendar would end, let's go to the southmost place on Earth. We never did, but I was curious enough to go there later. So thank you for having me here. Probably we have like 10 seconds for questions, but I'll be here if you want to talk.
I think more than 10 seconds.
Probably
good. 10 minutes.
Whoa, that's good.